Hello. The book I chose for my passion project was The Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, written by Frederick Douglass in 1845. What I did for my project was a blog. I wrote the most important information from each chapter in blog posts and made a separate post for each chapter. The reason I made this is so that it is something anyone who has or hasn't already read the book can come and get an understanding of Douglass's journey through slavery in a shorter period of time than reading the whole book. Although, I do encourage people to read the entire book and would recommend this to be used as something you can use to remember the chronology and the main parts of the book rather than just to get a summary. The main theme that Douglass focused on in the book that I emphasized in this blog is the idea that slavery is bad for everyone, not just the slaves, but also the slave owners. I'll now read to you a few of the posts from my blog, starting with Chapter 1. In the first chapter of the narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass, I learned a lot about the setting and Douglass's early life. He was born in Tuckahoe, Maryland, in Talbot County, and like most slaves, he didn't know his age or his birthday. Not long after his birth, he was separated from his mother, and he never knew who his father was. All he knew was that he was white. He speculated that he could have been his first slave master, but he never found out. When he was about 10 years old, his mother died, but he wasn't even permitted to visit her either before or after her death. He had been allowed to spend so little time with his mother that he claimed he reacted to her death as he would to the death of a stranger. After this, Douglass witnessed his first act of severe brutality. His aunt was strung up by his master and whipped severely, as he hid, terrified, in a closet and watched with horror. I also added some pictures of Douglass to each post. I would have wanted to add them in order of age, but there are very few pictures of him when he was young. Mostly all of them are when he was old. I'll read one more chapter blog. Chapter 2. In this chapter, Douglass started by discussing his slave master. The slave master he was born under the command of was named Captain Anthony. He is the man who whipped Douglass's aunt. He was very cruel and particularly enjoyed inflicting pain upon the slaves. Next, Douglass shares a descriptive account of the supplies, rations, and other items slaves were given. He said that the slaves were given one new pair of clothes per year. Slaves didn't get beds, and children are often almost naked. He also said that many slaves weren't too concerned that they didn't have beds because they were happy to get any sleep at all. Finally, Douglass also said that slave songs are greatly misunderstood. He said that most people who weren't slaves would claim these slaves are singing out of happiness. This was the opposite of the truth, as the slaves sang because there was nothing else they could do, and it was out of complete suffering, not enjoyment. The main things I learned from this chapter were about how undersupplied slaves were. I did not know they didn't even get beds, and thought they'd get a little more clothing than just one pair a year. So, the rest of my posts on this blog go in a similar manner and talk about a little discussion about what I thought about what happened and all the main events. So this was what I did for my passion project.